In my last video I was trying out my new home-built solar furnace. It was supposed to be a compact unit. I did some research, some major research actually, online before the build, and my point of building it was to make a small compact unit with decent airflow and at least some increase in temperature. I did manage to get, well, as the video, if you haven't watched the video, just go back and watch it. I have about 30 degrees increase from that one. I tried it at about 4 degrees Celsius, and it would give me about 34 to 35 degrees. After that video I actually had it mounted on the outside on the south facing wall of my house, and I had it connected to the woodworking room in my basement. It did work, but it had some major problems because of all the ducting, the small nooks and crannies all over the inside of the unit. It had 5 tubes going crisscross all over. It actually hampered the airflow too much. Not even with a quite effective fan I wouldn't be able to push air through it, let alone along the 32mm tubes I used. So even if I did get, well, quite a bit of increase, I couldn't get the airflow through. So I chose to discard that one and build a new one, a quite big one with, well, a bit better airflow. It's actually mounted on the outside, same place as the old one, just on the other side of the wall here. As you can see in the background, the sun is shining. It's a bit overcast outside, and I just went down to the basement and checked the temperatures. It's about 7 to 8 degrees down in the basement. It pulls air from the room through the solar furnace and back inside. And the temperature of the air coming out was about between 30 to 35. It's a bit overcast outside, so the temperature kind of goes up and down. Also, we have a few trees outside that blocks the sun for a couple of hours every day. I still haven't found my camera. When I do, I'll show you a demonstration of how the new furnace works. With full sunlight, it actually gives a gain of about, well, in excess of 50 degrees. The thermometer I use only goes to 50 degrees, and it was completely topped out. So at that point I had about 10 degrees inside the room, so that's at least 40 degrees gain. That's actually quite nice, because even if this unit is significantly bigger than the old one, it still isn't big compared to what most people build. In this video I was going to show you about, well, the basic principles of how a solar furnace works. A solar furnace, or solar hot air heater, or solar air heater, or solar air collector, and, well, it just has lots of names. It's basically just a box with insulation, a glass sheet on one side, and a collector inside. I used my new solar furnace as a reference, and this would be a cross section of how it works. It has the wall around, just a box with insulation. I have used 30mm polystyrene plastic, and for a decent sized furnace, that would be enough. You really don't need any more advanced than that. But if you're going to build one highly efficient, I wouldn't go for that kind of plastic, because it could actually melt. a really well built solar furnace could easily get up to 80 degrees, and that's enough to warp plastic. It has a sheet, the glass sheet, and actually the glass sheet is the most important part because it works as insulation and as a filter. It filters the sunlight through, but it doesn't let hot air out. So the glass sheet is actually quite important. And the other important thing is this, the black stripe here, that's the collector. In my case that's a roof sheeting, a tin roof. And what I've done is, well, as you can see, this is the cross section. It goes diagonally here, and what I've done is I'm pumping air in on the upper side, on one side of the box, the short side. The air goes on the upper side and moves through small holes in the sheet to the downside, and on this underside, the other side of the box, it gets funneled back out. So the air is forced to go through the tin sheet, which is actually the collector, which disperses the heat. The basics of a solar furnace is based on these two items, the glass and the collector. The box itself could be made out of just about any material. I've used pressure treated lumber because, well, it's sturdy. It can take whatever weather we have here. I don't have to worry about it warping in high heat or cracking in cold weather or something like that. The insulation, as I told you, is protruded plastic, the regular type you would use in, for example, RVs, things like that. This just white plastic about this thick, 30 millimeter. It's along the inside of the wall all around, and I used caulking glue just around all the edges, all the joints, to make the insulation also works as a airtight seal all around the unit. So even if it's not perfectly joined in the lumber, like for example the back side, it's just pieces of lumber alongside each other, the air won't get through the insulation. And the point is don't let outside air get to the inside. The only air we want on the inside is the one we're funneling. So this part of the box needs to be airtight. The same is done all around the glass sheeting. The glass itself is used, the best thing you can do is to just get readily cut storm glass, tempered glass, at least 4 or 5 millimeters thick, because that's type of glass that it won't crack if you have a storm, and it can take getting hot and cold. It won't crack, it won't just suddenly explode on you. But just about any glass would work for a decent sized project. The glass I used is actually recycled from old windows. I was given a few windows for free, so I extracted the glass, cracked a few of them. It had proved to be quite a job to extract glass without breaking it. But I managed to get a few pieces out, and I used that to build the front of the collector. The bigger pieces, the bigger consistent pieces, the better. If you can use one entire sheet of glass for the entire collector, that's great. If you have to use several of them, make sure to use cross beams. I've used that too. Just use cross beams at all the edges, all the joints, and just glue it up so it gets completely airtight, and also strengthens, just makes a frame around the glass so it won't crack if you have strong winds pushing on it. The glass itself will let light through. Light is basically just photons, energy in the shape of radiation. It's quite unusable for us. What we want is heat. And to be able to transform heat or transform radiance into heat, we need something that can absorb radiance. And this is done by the collector itself. The collector is well, usually metal, but just about anything would work. Preferably metal, of course. What you need is well, it can't be an insulator. Plastic wouldn't make a good collector, of course. Go for, like, for example, tin roof. Copper would be nice, but copper has a tendency to just oxidize. Tin roofing is, well, it's cheap. Usually you could get it for free. People tear down their garage or something, and they just need to give away or discard of their old roof. In my case, I used tin roof. It's about 45 centimeters from edge to edge. So what I've done is I just flattened the piece out. I built a frame on each side, one that goes under and one that goes on the top side, on opposite sides of the collector. And I just nailed the piece of the piece of tin to the frame, and that's what holds it like this. So the air gets through the glass, or the air, the light gets through the glass. It hits the collector, which we have painted black, because black absorbs light. Black is not really considered to be a color at all, because black is the product of something that absorbs most of the wavelength. It reflects very little of the light itself. The more light, the more of the wavelength that is absorbed, the more will be transferred into heat. So flat black color is the best. And make sure you use high heat resistant. That is a kind of paint used for engine manifolds or barbecues, things like that. It can withstand like 400 or 600 degrees Celsius. And even though this collector, the air itself perhaps might not be more than 60 degrees, the collector itself will get really hot, usually above 100 degrees.